My dear students, today we are going to discuss about the other important terms included in preamble of our Indian Constitution. Actually, our preamble is saying that the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic Republic of India. We are discussing about the important terms included in preamble of our Indian Constitution. Previous class or the yesterday's class we discussed about the some concepts like sovereign and other one is socialist. Now we will discuss about the other important terms included in preamble of our Indian Constitution, that is secular. Secular means in religious matters the Indian governments they are neutral, and the Indian governments, it may be a central government or the state government, both they are not working according to any religious principles. Here the religion is the efforts of the individuals, but government have no concern and no relation with the religious matters. That's why that if the our constitution makers have the leaders of our Indian leaders, they want to create India as a secular country. For example, you go for Pakistan. The Pakistan is working according to the religious principles. That's why India is not works according, Indian government not working according to any religious principle. That's why if a country or a country's government they are not working according to any religious principles, that government and the country can be called as a secular government or secular country. That's why our India is also a secular. In religious matters government acts like neutral. It may not support any religion, it cannot oppose any religion. That's why now we will discuss about the important concept or term included in our preamble of our Indian Constitution. Actually, according to our original constitution or original preamble, these words yesterday's discussed socialist and secular, these two words are not included in preamble of our Indian Constitution. These terms included into our Indian Constitution's preamble with the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976. Now we will discuss about the concept of secular. The term secular was incorporated or included in the preamble of our Indian Constitution according to the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. The secular character runs through various provisions of the Indian Constitution. Before the including of the concept of secular into our preamble, but we are following the secular characters runs through various provisions of the Constitution of India. The Constitution is not founded in any religion. In our Indian Constitution, there is no place for any religion, but respects our Indian Constitution not given place for any religion. Even though there is no place for Hindu religion, no place for Islamic religion, no place for Christian or Sikh or any religion. Our Indian Constitution not given place for any religion, but our Indian Constitution can respect all religions without any discrimination. Without any discrimination, it provides equal rights to all the people on religious matters. Indian government and Indian Constitution gives equal opportunities and equal rights to all the people in religious matters. It protects, the Constitution can protect the minorities. It respects the rule of law. The constitutional fathers, the founders of the Indian Constitution, incorporated or included ideal of secularism in all matters in the entire constitution. Various provisions in the fundamental rights, directive principles of state policies, and even many other provisions contain the ideal of secularism. Actually, at the time of making of our Indian Constitution, or when our Constituent Assembly is accepted or approved our draft Constitution, or when our Indian Constitution came into force from January 26th, 1950, but we are not given place for the word of secular, but our secular characters or secular principles are following by our Indian constitutions and Indian government and the people, and also various provisions, different provisions in fundamental rights, directive principles, and even many other provisions contain the ideal of secularism. That's why here our Indian, because of the secular nature of our Indian constitution, we are now our Indian constitution not given place for any religion, but the Indian constitution can respect all the religions that are existing in the country, and also it can provide protection to the minorities, it can respect the rule of law. That's why that shows our constitution is the character of the secular character, even though there is not included the concept of secular, that is showing, but we have the many characteristics of secular nature we are following and practicing by the Indian governments, and also our Indian constitution is also framed based on the secular concept only. That's why secular means in religious matters government have no connection. Even the government also should not work according to any religious principle. That's why government have no religion. If you go for Pakistan or other Islamic countries, they are following and they are working, their governments are working according to the religious principles. That's why our constitution given equal justice, proper justice for the concept of secular. That's why our government and our constitution is also our governments and our Indian constitution is also a secular character. Our constitution have the feature of secular. Then we will discuss the other important one, a democratic. A democracy, according to the meaning or definition, a definition is given by, a popular definition is given by Abraham Lincoln, the former president of United States of America. Democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. Here, democracy, in the democracy, the people, they are the owners of the government. Everybody have the share in the government. That's why democratic government in the modern world, this is the best form of the government. Democratic government is the best form of the government in the world. We cannot find out the best government. We will find out only the best government is the democratic government. Why? Because the government is formed by the people, created by the people. The government should work for the purpose of the people, even though the government is organized with the people. That's why here the democracy is an important philosophical ideal of the Constitution of India. The Constitution established our Indian Constitution. Actually, you know that the democracy, there is two types of democracies. Democracy, there is two categories or two types: direct democracy and other one is indirect democracy. The direct democratic system means all the people they should involve in the final decision making process. But that all nowadays in the modern world, there is a crores of population in different countries. For example, India, there is a above 135 crores of population is there. If you go for United States of America, there is above 35 crores of population. That's why heavy populated countries are there. That's why there is no scope for implementation of direct democratic system. The direct democratic means every person, they must involve in the final decision making process. In olden days, in ancient Greek city states, there is a scope for implementation of a direct democratic system. But even though nowadays also there is scope for implementation of direct democratic system in Switzerland in some cantons. But we are following the system of democracy with the indirect democratic system. Indirect democratic system can also be called as a representative democratic system. That's why, and the representatives of the people, and we are our people with the right to vote, which people they completed the age of 18 years now, after from 1989 onwards, the which people are the Indian young people, they completed the age of 18 years, they can get the right to vote and they can cast their vote in the election. They may cast their vote in the election. That's why, and the people they can elect their representatives, which people they have the right to vote, they can cast their vote in the election. Member of legislative assembly in the states, member of Lok Sabha in a national level. That's where the entire country is divided into in a geographical division. Our Indian Lok Sabha, entire India is divided into 543 Lok Sabha constituencies on the basis of population. Then even though every state also can be divided into or created into legislative assembly constituencies. That's why which people they have the right to vote, they can cast their one vote in the election of member of legislative assembly, and they can cast another vote in the election of Lok Sabha. That's why now in the indirect democratic system, the representatives of the people, they are forming the government, they are involving in the government, they are making the laws, and they are regulating the government, they are controlling the government. That's why the final decision can be taken by the representatives of the people in the concerned houses. That's why here our Indian constitution is allowed representative democracy. It ensures, it gives universal adult franchise. Universal adult franchise means, universal means to all. Adult means those who are completed their minority. Franchise means right to vote, and the right to vote to all the people. That's why our Indian constitution allowed representative democracy. It ensures universal adult franchise and right to vote to all the people, universal adult franchise, and free and fair periodical elections. And elections also must be conducted in a peaceful manner, in a free and fair attitude. The Election Commission of India is there. The Election Commission of India is a constitutional body. The Election Commission of India have the great responsibility to conduct the elections in a fair attitude, fair and free atmosphere. It is the Election Commission's its responsibility to provide a good atmosphere, a proper atmosphere, free and fair atmosphere, and also can conduct the elections in a periodical manner. According to our Indian constitution, the constitution is granted representative democracy, and that representative democracy can be completed with the can ensures universal adult franchise, right to vote to all the people without any discrimination. There is no rich and poor, there is no male and female, there is no caste, no community. That is not the criteria. Right to vote can be given to all the people without any discrimination, and also and a right to vote to all without any discrimination. And also there is an organization is there, there is an election commission is there. It's a responsibility, it is a constitutional body, and it is an autonomous body. It can take its own decision. That organization have the responsibility to conduct the elections in a fair and free atmosphere in a periodical manner. And every 5 years, normally in India, we are going to conduct the elections for Lok Sabha and election for legislative assembly or election to the Rajya Sabha in a periodical manner. Normally, if there is no problem, there is no emergency conditions, we will conduct normally general elections will be held for the Lok Sabha in every 5 years. Even abnormal conditions may be arises at that time. There is scope for postpone for 1 year. But there is according to our Indian Constitution, there is a periodical elections must be conducted. Uh, that's why our Indian Constitution established representative democracy. It ensures universal adult franchise and free and fair periodical elections, and also there is a rule of law and independent judiciary. Rule of law is there, and independent judiciary, our judiciary is also an independent organization. It is not under the control of the legislature. The judiciary is not under the control of the executive. The judiciary is an independent organization. Why? Because if lawmaking, if any, what are the decisions, what are the laws passed by the legislature, those laws can be implemented by the executive. If those laws are within the limits of the constitution or above the limits of the constitution, can be examined by the judiciary with independent independency. Judiciary have an independence authority. Due to the independent authority, the judiciary can declare the validity of the laws made by the legislature and implemented by the executive. Why? Our constitution maker, they created a judiciary as an independent organization, and the legislature and the executive, they must exercise their powers according to the constitution. They these two organs, they are working according to the constitution or not, can be examined by the judiciary with independent status. If their activities are above the limits of the constitution, the judiciary can declare the invalidity of the laws, can declare the ultra virus. It cannot be implementable by the executive. That's why our constitution maker, they created a independence of judiciary. There are the provisions which direct the representatives chosen, the representatives of the people directly selected by the people with their right to vote in a democratic manner. The people have right to contest, and not only casting of the votes. People, they have the right to contest in the elections, and the citizens, the people, they can cast their vote. They can contest in the elections. They can they have the liberty to give the petitions. They have the liberty to criticize the activities of the government. This type of democratic provisions or democratic rights given to the people. That's why here people have the right to contest in elections, and citizens criticize the government. But what are the decisions taken by the government? If they may be wrong, the people, they have the liberty to criticize the policies and programs of the government. That's why a democratic system, Indian constitution allowed the representative democracy, and also allowed periodical elections, and also allowed universal adult franchise and a right to vote to all the people. There is a independent status of judiciary. Then there is a rule of law. The people also have the right to contest, right to vote, right to contest in the elections, and also people, they have the right to criticize the policies and programs of the government. In other words, all provisions which are required for democracy. What are the provisions included into our Indian constitution? There may be universal representative democracy, universal adult franchise, free and fair periodical elections, rule of law, independence of judiciary, right to vote, right to contest in the elections, right to criticize the government. All these provisions are for the support of a democratic system. Why? Because democracy is the best form of the government in the world. That's why our constitution maker, they want to run the government with a democratic system. They allowed democracy for India. Then now we will discuss the other important concept from the preamble of our Indian constitution, that is republic. Republic, you know that already. Why? Because republic there is a king or queenless state. Ante the king or queen they have no authority over the activities of the government. For example, before 1947 or January 26th, 1950, India is not under the control of any princess, not under the control of king or queen of Britain or any other person. India is a republic. Republic means for example, in that country, the highest position, for example, Britain we cannot declare as a republican country. United Kingdom, we cannot call it as a Republic of Britain. Why? Because there is a king, highest position, highest authority or highest position in Britain can be enjoyed by the king or queen. That's why Britain, New Zealand, Australia, these are the not republican countries. For example, you know that People's Republic of China. India is also a republican country. For example, United States of America is also, there is no king or there is no queen. That's why wherever there is no queen or no king, the highest position can be available with the method of election. We will declare it as a republican country. Our Indian constitution makers also they made India as a republican country. There is no place for queen or king in India. The highest position, just like America's queen or king, just like in India, it may be a president of India. Even though in Britain, the queen or king of Britain, they can exercise only nominal powers. Even though here in India, the president of India can exercise the same power. Actually, all powers, executive and administrative powers vested in the name of president of India, but he can exercise his powers with the aid and advice of the Union Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister. That's why our Indian president is equivalent to the king or queen of Britain, but the position of president of India can be available with the help of the elections. Wherever the position of highest position of the country can be available with the election, we will declare it as a republican country. That's why our constitution makers, they made India as a republic. That's why the preamble of our Indian constitution declares India as a republic. Republic, the term republic, like other terms, has many meanings. What we other terms discussed, just like sovereign, secular, socialist, or democratic. The term republic also have some important features and many meanings in the context of our constitution. A republic may be understood. Our republic can be understood with the following features. Number one, there is no rule of monarch. Why our India is considered as a republic? There is no monarch in India from 26th January 1950. That's why the number one, if there is no rule of monarch or hereditary ruler. For example, in Britain, the king may be died, his son can become as a rule as a king. That's why the position of king or queen in Britain, that position can be available based on the hereditary factor. But in India is not a monarchy rule or in India there is no rule of monarchy and hereditary ruler. There is no place for hereditary ruler in India. And second one, the head of the state is not nominated. For example, our president of India is the head of the state. The president of India is the head of the state. That position may not be, it is not a nominated position. The president of India is a elected position. The president of India elected with the electoral college. The electoral college is organized or consists with the elected members of the both houses of parliament, all state legislative assembly members, including union territory assembly. Which union territories have the legislative assemblies? Those union territory assembly members also, they are the members of the electoral college. The electoral college is there According to our Indian constitution, that electoral college is meant for the election of President of India. That's why here the President of India is not a nominated post. The President of India, the head of the state, is not nominated. It is an elected one. The third one, the head of the state is elected who wields power for a fixed term. Even though the President of India is an elected position, he is elected for the term of 5 years. Then fourth one, the state is characterized by the absence of any ruling of any privileged class. Even though any rich people, rich families, they are not the ruling class. Which people they are acting as a ruling class? They are elected from the people. They are representatives of the people. They are acting as a ruling class. But here in India, there is no place for privileged class in India. The head of the state is the President of India. Unlike British monarch, it is not equal with the British monarch. He is elected for fixed term. The term republic enshrines some ideals like democracy, secularism, socialism, as any citizen of India without any discrimination can contest for the office subject to the provisions of the Indian constitution. That's why any person, which person they completed only age limit. If the people also they have the right to contest as a president of India also, based on the provisions of our Indian constitution. That's why here the president of India, the head of the state, that position is not available with the nominated method or with the hereditary factor, and it is not a monarch. The president of India is the head of the state. The head of the state is elected from the electoral college or representatives of the people. But in Britain, the position head of the state may be king or queen. That position can be available based on the hereditary factor, and that is they may be called as a monarchs. Now that's why India is a republican country. Why? Because the position of head of the state, that position is not a nominated, is not a hereditary. That position can be available or reached by the people with the method of election through the electoral college. Then we will discuss the other important term in the preamble of our Indian constitution, that is justice. A look at the preamble of our Indian constitution shows that our preamble of our Indian constitution shows that India, which in sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, needs to secure 4 pillars of objectives. Our preamble of our Indian constitution is explaining or included the saying about the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and these concepts needs to secure 4 pillars of objectives. These sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic needs to secure 4 pillars of objectives, and these concepts have the 4 pillars of objectives or goals. 4 pillars of objectives and goals are there for the terms of sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. What are the 4 pillars of objectives? They are justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity with various dimensions. The 4 are the goals and objectives of the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic have the 4 pillars of objectives. What are the 4 pillars of objectives of the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic of India? What are the 4 pillars of objectives and objectives? They are justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity with various dimensions. It may be pointed out that these pillars are necessary. These pillars are compulsory or necessary to secure sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic in a true spirit. With the help of with the attaining of the justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, there is scope for real meaning for the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Otherwise, if the Indian government are not working for providing justice, equality, liberty, fraternity to the people, no use with the great terminology of terms of sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, according to our preamble. That's where the real meaning. The real meaning can be available to the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic of India by attaining its four pillars of objectives and aims. They are justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. And if the attaining of all these four pillars, then there is scope for real meaning. There is scope for fulfillment of the purpose of the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Justice means, for example, justice means there may many views on this aspect, but we may understand it as a harmonious reconciliation of the conduct of the individuals. And our individual behavior, what type of behavior is required, and what is the meaning of justice. The justice meaning of justice can be possible with the harmonious reconciliation of the conduct, character of the individuals. Our character, our behavior, the individual's character and conduct must be useful for the harmonious relation. And our behavior, our conduct must be in a harmony, good and cordial. Our behavior must be useful for the creation of cordial relations within the society. And justice can be understood it as the harmonious. For example, our character or our behavior may be not good. We must try to change our behavior, and our behavior must be useful for the creation of harmonious relations among the people. That's why justice must be understood as a harmonious reconciliation of the conduct of the individuals with general good. Our behavior, our code of conduct must be useful for the society. Our conduct or our behavior should not be damage the interest of the society. That is and justice must be understood as a harmonious reconciliation of the conduct of the individuals with the general good. Our behavior must be useful. Our behavior must be accepted by all, and it cannot create any troubles to the anybody. In other words, it is the attainment of it is the achievement of common good. Our behavior must be useful for, and our behavior must be see the useful for the welfare of all. Our behavior must be useful or needful for the use of common good. It is to provided fairly to the right without any bias, and also equal rights to given to all without any bias. Then the preamble of the Constitution seeks to secure justice in three dimensions. Our preamble of our Indian Constitution want to provide justice in three types or in three dimensions, in the manner of three dimensions according to the preamble of our Indian Constitution. And what the concept is included in the preamble, that is justice. Our preamble of the Constitution want to provide justice in three dimensions. They are social justice, economic justice, and political justice. Social justice, economic justice and political justice. The real meaning of justice from our preamble want to provide justice with the help of the three dimensions. They are social justice, economic justice and political justice. Now we will discuss about the social justice according to our preamble. The social justice means the abolition of all kinds of discriminations. There is no scope for any type of discrimination among the people. Social justice, what is the meaning of what is the real meaning of social justice? Abolition of all types of restrictions and discrimination which are prohibited the healthy development of an individual. And what are the social evils are there? All social evils must be abolished. That's why social justice means abolition of all kinds of discrimination. There is no scope for existence of any type of discrimination among the people based on the caste, community, gender, male, female, rich or poor. There is no place for discrimination. There is scope for abolition of all types of discriminations. Those discriminations are prohibited for the healthy development, for the all-round and perfect personality development of the individuals or members of the society. And the social justice is very much useful for the abolition of all types of discriminations, all types of inequalities. And this type of abolition of discrimination is very much useful for the perfect and all-round personality development of the individuals within the society. And the social evils, like for example, already India, where there are many social evils are there. That's why to eradicate the social evils from the society, the social justice is very much useful according to the preamble of our Indian Constitution. The social justice is saying that there is a scope for abolition of all types of discriminations among the people, and the social justice is very much useful for the healthy development of individuals as a member of the society. The social evils, like there is some social evils are there in Indian society. The social evils like untouchability. And India divided into some people are touchable people and some people are untouchable people. That type of discrimination abolished by the Indian Constitution with the help of the social justice from the preamble. That's why social evils like untouchability, dowry system. Dowry, there is a marriage. There is a marriage between the male and female. The female must get some money from their parents to parent. That's why that type of dowry system. The marriages are determined by the dowry, money, assets, properties. That type of one is also an important social evil. That's why the all types of social evils are abolished by the Indian Constitution with the help of the social justice. That's why social evils like untouchability, dowry system, and abolished. Then allowing these social evils are allowing and practicing by the Indian society from the medieval personal laws. According to the medieval laws, these social evils are practicing by the Indian society for a long back, from the centuries onward, or with the help of the medieval personal laws to continue for the disadvantage of some sections of the society, etc. Based on this type of social evils, according to the medieval personal laws, they created great troubles or troubles for the proper growth and development of some sections of the people in the society. That's why the all types of social evils are abolished by the Indian Constitution with the help of the social justice and etc. and the state has the duty to maintain. The state or the government have its primary responsibility. Governments, it is a duty to maintain social justice, provide social justice to all its people, to realize the goals of the constitution by taking necessary steps to eradicate the social evils. అంటే for the realization of the aims and objectives of the constitution can be possible with the help of the eradication of all types of social evils from the society by the governments. Then this is the social justice. Social అంటే justice for all. There is no discrimination. And we want to provide the social justice to all the people. Then we treat all people, all human beings are equal. No discrimination. There is no scope for existence of the social evils within the society. All types of social evils must be eradicated or must be abolished. There is the government must take a proper steps for the eradication of all types of social evils from the society. Then only there is scope for perfect personality development can be possible among the people, and then there is scope for utilization of their talents and skills in a perfect manner. That's why the social justice is also essential for the creation of a progressive society or highly civilized society. The highly civilized society or highly progressive society can be possible with the help of the implementation of social justice by the governments. It may be a state governments or the central government. And then other one is economic justice. Economic justice, the realization of social justice, the attaining of the concept of the social justice can be possible. The perfect implementation of social justice can be possible with the help of the providing economic justice to the people. Without economic justice, there is no scope for eradication or no scope for providing social justice to the people. The social justice can be possible, can be available to the people with the help of the economic justice only. Without economic justice, there is no scope for possibility of social justice. That's why the realization of social justice is associated with, connected with the economic justice. The success of social justice, the success of social justice are the attaining of the aims and objectives or goals of the constitution can be possible with the help of the providing social justice to the people, or the success of social justice. The successful availability of social justice can be possible with the help of the realization of, with the help of the economic justice. That's why the realization of social justice is associated with the economic justice. That's why economic justice means the fulfillment of minimum needs, fulfillment of minimum economic requirements. First of all, every person, he want to fulfill his economic needs or economic requirement. That's why the economic justice can be possible. The economic justice means fulfillment of minimum economic requirements. What are the minimum economic requirements? For example, food, cloth, shelter. In the modern world, other important aspects also considered as a minimum economic requirements. What are the other requirements? Their health and education is also. Health and education, nutrition, food also considered as a minimum economic minimum needs of the people. Not only food, shelter, cloth, the other important needs also should be considered as a minimum economic needs. What are the other minimum economic needs? They are health, education, good living standards also considered as a minimum needs in the modern world. It seeks to abolish, the economic justice wants to, seeks to abolish banded labor. Banded labor means the rich people, some people are the powerful people, they are getting the services from the people by without paying anything. And they are getting services from the people, but these people, they are not giving anything, they are not paying the wages to the people. We are getting labor with force by not paying anything. That type of which people they are working without taking anything can be called as a bonded labor, kattu banisalu. Actually, in a slavery system, there is a slaves, their duty to fulfill the orders of their master. What are the orders and directions given by their masters? Slaves duty to obey, but they cannot receive, they they can't get anything, they can't get or receive anything from the master. That's why here a bonded labor system is also an important social evil in Indian society. That's why bonded labor means with force, by creating fear or terror among the people, and they are getting labor or they are using their services, but they can't pay anything for their labor. That type of one can be called as a bonded labor. And this is, we should call it as a slaves. And slaves have no rights, no liberties, no family, no property. Master may give some level of only food. That type of people in India, we are calling them as a bonded labor. For providing economic justice according to the preamble of our Indian Constitution, there is scope for abolition of bonded labor and such other terms of forced labor. And if, for example, we want to get any services from anybody, we must pay the wages as per the work. But in olden days, there is a bonded labor system and forced labor system is there. Which people they gain the services from those bonded labor and forced labor, those people they are not paying anything. That's why that type of social evil, this is also a kind of social evil that must be eradicated from the society. That's why to provide economic justice to the people, first of all abolish the bonded labor and other terms of forced labor, and remove the poverty conditions of the people. The governments, if the government want to provide, want to fulfill the preamble's assurance to the people to provide the economic justice, first of all, every government should work to eradicate the poverty conditions of the people. And the government should should work for the providing of the, to increase the living standards of the people, to provide respectable life to the people. That type of responsibility is in the hands of the representatives of the people, in the hands of the government, central government and the state government. That's why every government, if governments are state government or central government, for example, even though after 70 years of 70 years of our India's independence, there is a continuation of nearly 30 crores of people, they are beggars. And our governments are planning for many poverty alleviation programs, poverty eradication programs, but there is no proper success. That's why after 70 years also our governments are planning to eradicate the poverty situation from the people. That's why they are paying the pension, old age pensions, they are paying the widow pensions, they are paying the unemployed stipend, they are implementing so many welfare programs. But there is a due to the lack of commitment among the ruling class, there is no successful reaching up all these developmental programs within the country. Even though if there is a Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Developmental Program, Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme is implementing from before 2010 onwards to eradicate the poverty from the people only. It shows that yet there is a big task. Poverty, Indian poverty create a big danger to the Indian governments. Now the Indian government they should have the commitment towards the growth and real growth and development of the country, and they must plan for the perfect policies and programs for the eradication of the poverty situation among the people and the society. Government should plan for the proper increase the proper economic status to all the people. That's why here economic justice is saying that the government should fulfill all the economic needs of the people. That's why to provide the economic justice to the people, to abolish the bonded labor and other types of forced labor, removal of poverty, and also why, because even though there is a 30% of the people nearly, for example, they are living below poverty line. Actually, there is a great need is required. Our Indian leaders and the Indian government they should plan with commitment. They should give top priority to the nation development and public development. But our governments are giving top priority to the corporate sectors and top priority to the rich people's interest, but not giving importance to the growth and proper growth and development of the poor people, not giving importance to the real growth and development of our country. And what are the goals and objectives prescribed by the founders of our Indian Constitution, yet we are not reached those goals and aims and objectives prescribed by the founders of our Indian Constitution. But even though now our Indian government or our governments are giving top priority to protect the interest of the rich people, not giving importance to the real growth and development of the country, not giving importance for the real growth and development of the people. That's why there is a poverty situation is continuing. That is a big problem or big social evil for the Indian social system. That's why here there is a scope for, they are saying that to provide the economic justice to the people, to abolish bonded labor, forced labor, and also should work with commitment to remove the poverty. Jawaharlal Nehru showed his concern in this context. And Jawaharlal Nehru he has an idea to remove the poverty from the Indian society, to abolish the bonded labor system, forcible labor system. He want to plan for the real growth and development of, to eradicate to real growth and development of all human beings. He planned for the eradication of poverty from the Indian society. But until Jawaharlal Nehru also concentrate his mind in this contest to eradicate the poverty from the Indian society. But he said that the service of India means the service of millions of sufferers. That type of ambition, the ambition of Jawaharlal Nehru to eradicate the poverty from the Indian society. He want to build a powerful economic country, India. That's why he given a message to the people. His ambition. He said that the service of the India means the service of millions who suffer. It means the ending of poverty and ignorance and diseases and inequality of opportunity. Jawaharlal Nehru also want to eradicate all types of inequalities, economic inequalities. He want to eradicate the poverty from the Indian society. He said that the service of the India means service to the sufferers, service of millions of sufferers. It means ending the poverty, ignorance, and disease. Ending the poverty, ignorance, and diseases, inequality. He want to give the equal opportunities to all the people. He want that's he actually he belong to a democratic socialist. Wherever the socialism is there, the socialism can see the welfare of all the people. There is scope for nationalization of means of production. The production can be produced for the fulfill the needs of the people, not for the profit. And socialism, there is total means of production comes under the control of the government, and the government can produce the production for the benefit of the people, not for the profit. But that type of ambition, that type of commitment is not there in the present governments. That's why Jawaharlal Nehru want to eradicate the complete poverty from the Indian society. He want to create a economic equality among the all the people. He want to give a equal opportunities to all. That's the ambition of the greatest man of our generation has been to wipe every tear from every eye. That may beyond us, but as long as there are tears and suffering, so long our work will not be over. Yet not after 70 years also, we have the great need. Our in ruling governments at the central level and the state level, they must divert their attention from the corporate sector and from the rich people to for the growth and development of the poor people, to eradicate the real poverty from the society, should work with commitment towards the real growth and development of the country, not for the growth and development of the private people, not for the growth and development of the corporate sector. Must give the top priority for the public sector companies, must give the top priority to provide the to fulfill the minimum needs of the people, should work for the creation of equal economic society, economic equality among the people. With the economic equality, there is scope for possibility of social justice. Otherwise, social justice may not be possible. First of all, every man, every individual, he want to fulfill his basic needs like hunger, shelter, cloth, health, good living standards, education. But then only they may think about the equality or social equality or other types of equality. That's why if we want to fulfill the real goals and aims of founders of our Indian Constitution or the preamble of our Indian Constitution, by eradication, total destruction of poverty from the society, and entire society must be live in a happy life with economic equality, then there is scope for possibility of social justice or social equality. That's why first of all we if for the attaining of the social justice or social equality, it is depends upon the acquiring of the granted of economic equality to all the people. That's why the government must divert their selfish attitude, must divert their concentration on the growth and development of the corporate sector to for the real growth and development of the country, real growth and development, and to increase the living standards of the lives of the people, for the real growth and development of the individuals. The government must diverted their attention from the unnecessary, unuseful, or selfish attitude to those activities must be useful for the entire community of our country. There is no scope for the government should not wastage of money. They should plan, they should work as a trustees to the public exchequer. That money, what is the money gained by the central government and state government, that money must be used for the purpose of the real growth and development of the states and country, for the real benefit of the people for the creation of economic equality, for the fulfillment of the aims and objectives of the founders of the Indian Constitution, and to reach the Indian independent fruits to the common people, ordinary people, with the help of the reaching of the fruits of the growth and development of the present society. That's why the government should always think about to divert their attention for the real growth and development of the mankind, real growth and development of the states and nation. Okay, thank you.